Today we're going to show you some hints and tips we've done on our motorhome. Now a lot of these hints and tips will apply to most motorhomes and will certainly apply to the majority of caravans as well. So they're predominantly hints and tips, but there's also a couple of modifications there. So let's see what's going on. On some sites it can be quite difficult to tune in the television. So we fitted a TV and satellite signal finder. I'll show you some more details of that in a short while. This one's velcroed to the back wall, and what I've done there, rather than have to disconnect the antenna each time and reconnect each time, I've added a little antenna splitter. This is the one they used to use years ago when they used to play Pong or Ping on TV sets. You would connect the TV and the game via one of these. So what I've done here now, when we arrive on site, I turn on the satellite finder, switch the switch, and there we go. Then I can adjust the antenna. And the nice thing about this particular signal finder is it's got audio, which is probably blocking me out now, as well as a visual indication. So that's my tip there. Fit one of those, or buy one of those at the minimum. And if you want to make it simpler when you arrive on site, let me turn that off. So if you want to make it easier to tune your television, get the maximum signal while you're on site, fit one of these and a splitter. If, like us, you go into the motorhome when it's dark sometimes, for us it can be quite difficult finding the power switch to turn the power on, so we can have the lights on. So what we've got this little gizmo. I probably paid £10–12 from it from one of the local bargain stores, Ever Ready, so it's a well-known brand. And this one has an auto function. Now we've been using this now for at least 6 months, and I still haven't changed the batteries in it. We leave it on auto and we face it to the door. So I normally position it something like this. So there's the door, and then when we come in, the first thing it does is it illuminates the room, and then we can then see the panel to turn the power on. So a very low cost option. Of course, when we're moving and everything, we just turn it off, pack it away, and I said, for me, as I'm an IT consultant, it's very important for me to have internet wherever we are. So here I use a cheap and cheerful router. Now some of the routers advertised for motorhomes and things are really expensive. This one is a budget 4G router. You just disconnect the normal antennas, which are these, and connect it to our external antenna, which I'll show you a picture of in a short while. And we've got 4G, 5G, wherever we are. Now this particular one's only a 4G one router, but I think this one cost about £70, £69.95, £75, that sort of price. So a big saving, rather than use one of the dedicated motorhome routers or camping routers, whatever they're called. So this is a reasonably cheap antenna. We paid £74.95 for this one, and it does a really good job. Now while we're on site and we've got hookup, we use an Amazon Alexa to act as a radio, to act as an alarm clock, to give us news updates, traffic reports and everything. So people may not be aware that an Alexa will work away from home. So as we have the onboard router anyhow, it's nice and simple to set up. It automatically connects when we turn the power on, and we keep up to date with what's going on in the world. A product we came across while investigating the best way to keep the toilet smelling fresh is this Sol Bio. So if you press this button for about 2 seconds, that's enough to supply the required amount of Sol Bio, and we've been very, very pleased with it. It works a treat. So we're not using any blue anymore, and this is completely 100% biological, biodegradable, bio whatever it is. A bit more detail there, and I believe it comes from Holland, and it works a treat. So something you might want to look into. I'm pretty sure this is a very common one. The glass tops and a lot of these cooker hoods or cooker tops often rattle, We just put a towel under it, simple as that. Lay a towel under it, and no more rattling glass top. Filling these cupboards up without them spilling out can be quite difficult at times, so we tend to fill ours with all these little trays. They don't take the slip out, it groups things together, and as long as you can find the right trays at the right size, it maximises space. So in our bathroom the shelves are fairly quite shallow as well, and to stop things rattling around we just put them in these simple little trays, which are available at all the sort of local bargain stores. So our Garmin mounts into the typical Peugeot clipboard type thing. I'm not quite sure what this is officially called, but if you look at the back here, you press this and this just lifts out. So I'll show you a bit more of this in detail, but basically this is an old coaster, but it could be a bit of ply or whatever. On the back edge I've put a little thin bar of the same material purely to grip underneath the clip. I don't think it would move without that, but even so. And on the bottom I've just put some nice bays on there so it doesn't scratch the surface, or felt, whatever you want to call it. That's what it looks like when it's assembled, and it's also convenient because there's normally a lot of surplus lead, and I wrapped the lead round there as well to try and get it all the right length. Now I'll show you a bit more of this in a minute. This is the actual unit I fixed there. So put this in there, put it there, it slides into place and it's locked in place. It just works really well. It means I haven't got everything stuck on the windscreen, especially if you're out and about and you want to park up somewhere and pull across the blinds. It's much more difficult if you've got something stuck to the screen. You've got to take it off each time. So this is what I've used to attach the Garmin to the actual board. I've bought 2 of these, I think, on Amazon, probably for, I don't know, £5, something like that. Now these are actual suction ones, but what I've done, I've drilled 2 holes through it, one either side, and I've mounted it through the board, and I've countersunk the holes on the bottom side so they don't protrude, so it doesn't mark the surface. And then, as I said, I put a bit of baize or felt, whatever it is, on the bottom so it doesn't mark the surface. We've been using that now for the best part of a year, and it works really well. In one of our earlier videos we showed some modifications I made to the table system, and in the end I reversed what I did and modified it in a slightly different way. So this leg here is exactly as it comes from the factory, and off to the right here you'll see it looks slightly different, because now this one is now able to slide. So the table was a nice table, but unfortunately when it's in place it's quite hard to get into the seats here, and my wife finds it very difficult to reach up to the cupboards. So with this new system, she wants to get to the cupboard or someone wants to get in there, we simply slide the table out and off we go. Now to do this, there's a couple of mods you need to make. Now I've made a wooden base for this one with a CNC router, but to be honest I think you could glue a plastic disc into that and put some baize or felt on the bottom of it, which is what I've done here, so this doesn't mark the floor. It slides quite nicely. And then for when we're actually moving along, if you look here, we have some bungees here, and we just secure the leg with the bungees, and that seems to be really good. Now one other thing which I'll have to drop the camera for a second to show you is for this to be able to work, this leg needs to be nice and tight. We need to make sure that the bottom is screwed really tight and this can't rotate. So when I'm sliding this around, you see that leg doesn't move. Now what we could do is put a pin through that, or some sort of bolt through it, through the actual black bit here if necessary, if you really want to be 100% sure that it never moves. But rather than risk that, I just tighten it up extra tight, and I've not had it move so far. Now at the top, because the top is now acting like a bearing, I've put some PTFE discs in there, which I'll show you in a second, which allow it to rotate nice and easily. Here you can see it with the table removed. Now obviously this still unplugs if we want to stow it away, but we generally leave it in place all the time. Now that it can slide around, it's so much easier. And this is what it looks like upside down. Now these discs here, I made a number of these discs here, which are PTFE. I literally just put those in there, and these slide amongst each other because they're very slippery. and that means this doesn't get damaged at all now. So, and that seems to work very well. And if you look at the foot, I've modified the foot so that it has this beige felty type surface on there, and again this freewheels but doesn't go anywhere. So as you can see here, I put some beige on the foot that I've made. This is a foot probably slightly too thick actually. This is probably made from, I don't know, 9mm ply, but I think in actual fact a plastic disc that would fit inside the recess there would be equally as good if you can find a way of securing it in there, maybe a dab of hot glue. I mean, it's under pressure anyhow because the table of course is resting on it, therefore I think it's unlikely to come out. This is obviously where the leg used to attach. You can see the screw holes there. I haven't bothered filling them in at the moment at this point in time, but certainly something you could do. So I'm just going to put this table back in now. That's locked back into place now and just slides back and forwards. So we hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, maybe you could click the like button. If you've got any comments or questions, please leave them below.